Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are plunging into, well, one of the most remarkable identity crises in the history of paleontology.
Oh, definitely.
We are talking about Therizinosaurus. It's a creature that's been redefined and reimagined so many times, Its 70-year scientific journey tells us almost as much about how science works as it does about the actual dinosaur.
It's truly one of the most enduring enigmas out there. I mean, if you were a paleontologist back in the 1950s, you knew this thing as, like, a stabby turtle. Seriously.
Stabby turtle. Okay.
Yeah. And then if you were maybe a gamer in the 2000s, it was this machete-wielding monster. And now, if you follow the latest science, it's seen more as a gentle Cretaceous gardener.
That is quite the evolution. So our mission today is to track how this understanding changed. We're going to walk through the fossil record, the wild guesses, piece by piece, really try to understand how one dinosaur could be mistaken so completely.
And how science slowly, sometimes painstakingly, corrects itself.
Right. Let's start the clock. Our story kicks off in the Gobi Desert, specifically the famous Nemegt Formation, which is, well, it's known for its weird and wonderful dinosaurs.
Oh, that formation is legendary. Absolutely legendary. It's the neighborhood where you find giants like the Asian Tyrannosaur, Tarbosaurus, and the really speedy ostrich mimic Gallimimus. It's a land of extremes.
And it was right there during Soviet expeditions that researchers started finding bits and pieces. Yeah. By 1954, a scientist named Evgeny Maleev published a description of a new species, Therizinosaurus. But what did they actually have?
That's the crucial part. They had almost nothing. We're talking about maybe two very large but very partial claws. The rest of it, the head, the body, how it stood, was just a complete blank.
Wow. So Maleev was in a tough spot.
Absolutely. He had to compare these strange objects to, well, whatever else was in the known record at the time.
And his conclusion was,
yeah,
let's just say spectacular. He compared them to the claws of a giant sea turtle.
Exactly. Specifically, he thought they looked like the digging appendages of a turtle, maybe for digging nests or something on shore.
Right, and that's where the name came from.
That's it. He named the species Therizinosaurus cheiloniformis, which translates pretty directly to the turtle-like reaper lizard.
Okay, if you just look at those claws, I mean, without any other context, why turtles? What was it about the shape?
It really comes down to the shape, yeah. When we look at the hands of known predatory theropods, think T-Rex relatives, their claws are really strongly curved, like hooks, basically, designed for grasping, tearing.
Right.
The claws Maleev found, they didn't have that strong curve. They were long, sure, but also quite thick and relatively flat, almost straight in profile compared to a typical predator claw. So this flatness, this lack of a hook, it led him to assume they weren't for grabbing prey, maybe for moving earth or sweeping stuff on the seabed, which immediately suggested some kind of squat, wide, sprawling creature, maybe aquatic or semi-aquatic, like a turtle. So
based on just that one assumption, from these few fragments, we got the very first kind of wild vision of this creature. K.K. Firova's 1954 illustration. It's almost mythical. Can you describe that for us?
It's genuinely incredible to look back on. It's this bizarre turtle-sloth hybrid thing. It shows a really squat, wide body, super low to the ground, almost like a giant armadillo or a tortoise sprawling on all fours.
On all fours.
Yeah, and it had these thick, almost sloth-like arms ending in those huge claws. The head, totally turtle-like, wide beak for a mouth. Just weird.
A sprawling four-legged creature,
yeah,
built like a giant turtle. And this was the accepted picture for decades.
Pretty much, yeah. It sort of became this forgotten dinosaur, known only in really specialist circles as this complete oddity.
And nobody questioned the four-legged stand for a theropod lineage.
Well, that's the key thing. It was classified based on how the claws look like they function, not on any actual skeletal anatomy, because that was completely unknown. The idea that a theropod, a lineage defined by walking upright on two legs, bird-like legs, could sprawl like that. Structurally, it's absurd, but nobody had the body fossils to challenge it yet.
Okay, so when did things start to change? When did the cracks in this turtle theory begin to show?
The real shift started quietly in the late 1970s and early 1980s. This is when paleontologists started finding other equally strange dinosaurs in Mongolia, namely Segnosaurus and Erlikosaurus.
The plot thickens.
Right. And these were fascinating because unlike the Therizinosaurus fragments, we had enough material to know quite a bit about their anatomy. They looked definitively like herbivores.
Herbivores, how could they tell?
Well, they had specialized teeth, clearly for processing tough vegetation, not sharp steak knives, more like leaf choppers. They also had these big barrel-shaped guts you need that for digesting lots of plant matter. And their hips were broad, built for stability, not necessarily for speed like a predator.
But the twist, let me guess.
You got it. Just like those mysterious Therizinosaurus fragments, these newly discovered herbivores also had massive, elongated claws.
Okay, so giant claws weren't only for predation then.
Right. We see long-clawed herbivores today like sloths or giant anteaters, so the concept itself isn't impossible. But now we had a whole group of these things, which scientists initially called Segnosauridae, defined by this weird combo: giant claws on a clearly herbivorous two-legged dinosaur.
But the big question remained, was this new group somehow related to that forgotten turtle lizard?
Exactly. The stage was set for the big reveal, and the moment the whole picture just snapped into focus, it happened the very same year the original Jurassic Park movie was blowing everyone's minds. 1993.
Wow, perfect timing. What happened?
This was the discovery of Alxasaurus. It was the most complete skeleton found yet for any member of this strange family. It gave us a really clear view of the whole animal, and once they looked closely at the hands of Alxasaurus...
I mean, guess. They look familiar.
Bingo. Its fossilized claws bore a significant, absolutely undeniable resemblance to those initial confusing partial claws of Therizinosaurus.
That connection.
That link proved it. The entire lineage, Segnosaurus, Erlikosaurus, and the long-forgotten Therizinosaurus, they were all theropods, bird-like dinosaurs. This meant the stabby turtle was suddenly revealed to be, well, much more bird than turtle. An enormous two-legged creature that stood fully upright.
And I bet the size estimates changed dramatically then.
Oh, absolutely. Once paleontologists could properly place those fragments onto a standard theropod body plan, the scale just exploded. This wasn't some squat turtle. It was a giant, estimated to be maybe 5 meters tall and 10 meters long. Huge.
Wow, okay, so they finally figured out where it belonged.
The switch finally flipped. They officially merged the forgotten species, Therizinosaurus, into this group, the Segnosauridae family. But here's the magnificent irony of taxonomy. Scientific naming rules.
Uh-oh, what now?
Well, even though the group was really understood thanks to these newer, more complete discoveries like Segnosaurus and Alxasaurus, the oldest name takes priority. The first one named, even if it was based on fragments and totally misunderstood, gets seniority.
You're kidding. Because Therizinosaurus was named first, back in '54.
It won the naming rights, correct. So Segnosauridae got replaced. The entire group was renamed Therizinosauridae. The original mistake, the turtle-like reaper lizard, ended up lending its name to the entire family, one of the strangest groups of dinosaurs we've ever found.
That is a truly wild ride for a name. So, okay, now we have this massive, officially classified theropod, giant claws, huge size. Did it become an overnight celebrity?
Pretty much. I mean, a newly understood giant known mainly for its sheer size and those unbelievable 3-foot claws. It captured the imagination instantly, especially in pop culture.
But science was still figuring things out, right?
Well, yeah. Before the scientific nuance could really filter through, the artists kind of ran with it. Some of that early post-revelation artwork trying to blend the new two-legged stance with the known herbivore gut. It resulted in some really bizarre-looking transitional art.
I remember reading descriptions like a spindly little neck, a head that seemed way too small, and this big fridge of a belly. Someone compared it to a sick ET, looking both skinny and bloated at the same time.
That's a pretty fair assessment of some of those early attempts, yeah. But the feature that just completely dominated the conversation, especially early on, was those claws. And in pop culture, massive 3-foot-long claws usually translate into only one thing.
Hyperaggression. Predation.
Exactly. Pure monster movie fuel.
Okay, but hold on. Let's be fair. If you've got a creature that's, 5 meters tall with these enormous Freddy Krueger claws on each arm, isn't it kind of understandable that pop culture artists would focus on the danger? Was the hyperaggression thing entirely baseless or just exaggerated?
That's a really great question. And it highlights the gap between what looks dangerous and what its actual ecological role might be. Pop culture definitely chose sensationalism over the emerging science. Look at its debut in the 1999 video game Dino Crisis.
Oh, I remember that game.
Right. It was basically portrayed as this robust, crested horror movie monster, a straight-up apex predator designed purely to be scary.
And it didn't stop there.
Nope. Even as late as 2012, in the movie The Dino King, it was shown as this, like, ridiculously muscular beast with arms like The Rock, chasing down established predators like Tarbosaurus, totally ignoring the herbivore evidence. Other media, too, showing it impaling prey. It was all about the claws as weapons.
And yet, all this time, paleontologists were actually gathering data pointing away from the slasher idea.
Absolutely. While fiction was kind of running wild, science was steadily refining the picture. In 2002, a really key piece of evidence arrived from Bipiosaurus, which is a close relative.
What was that?
Fossil evidence of feathers, clear impressions. So suddenly, the giant monster potentially goes from scaly to, well, shaggy.
Yeah.
A fuzzy oddball.
Okay, feathers make it less monstrous, maybe. What about the diet? How do they really nail that down?
That got cemented even further by work done much more recently, actually, in 2022, looking at Therizinosauridae brains, or rather the space the brain occupied in the skull.
Brain studies. What did they find?
They found these creatures had giant olfactory bulbs. That means an extremely developed sense of smell.
Right. And why is smelling so important for a plant eater? Seems counterintuitive.
So think about it. A big predator often relies heavily on vision, maybe speed. But a large herbivore, especially one eating specific types of plants, needs to be selective. Is this leaf toxic? Is this fruit ripe? Is this the high-energy stuff I need? A good sense of smell is crucial for finding the right food, not just finding any food. It strongly suggested browsing, not active predation.
So the scientific picture was becoming huge, feathered, definitely long-clawed, but a plant eater with a fantastic sense of smell. Did any media actually get this more accurate version?
Some did, yeah. It started to filter through. The 2015 kids show Dino Dan, for instance, actually did a surprisingly good job. They showed it with feathers, the correct body structure, like the 4 toes on the ground, the wide belly, the narrow jaws suited for stripping leaves.
Oh, interesting.
And they even borrowed the idea of nesting behavior, which we see in related dinosaurs like Oviraptorosaurs. They made it look like a real, believable animal, not just a movie monster.
That really reframes the whole purpose of those claws then, doesn't it? It changes the picture completely, from slasher villain to something else entirely. Which brings us nicely to our conclusion, the Cretaceous black bear.
Yeah, that's become the best analogy, I think. It captures the most modern, scientifically grounded depiction. You see this beautifully in shows like Prehistoric Planet from 2022. Imagine this shaggy, enormous creature covered in a thick, dense coat of feathers, maybe even with a slight iridescence, possibly dark-colored, like a black bear.
And this understanding fundamentally redefines those claws. They weren't machetes for fighting T-Rex or for impaling things.
Exactly. They were tools, multi-purpose ecological instruments. Yes, probably used to hook high branches and pull them down to its mouth for browsing, like a giant sloth might. But perhaps even more fascinatingly, they could have been powerful tools for ripping open dead trees, termite mounds, or digging into logs.
To get at what? Insects?
Insects, larvae, maybe even honey from Cretaceous bee nests. If those existed, then high-calorie treats, just like a bear uses its claws.
So the black bear analogy isn't just about the look, the shagginess, it's about the behavior, too.
Precisely. The Therizinosaurus was potentially the black bear of the Cretaceous. A massive, probably quite irritable animal you definitely want to avoid, but one using its impressive claws for digging, ripping into wood, browsing vegetation, and accessing those calorie-dense bonuses.
What an incredible journey. Seriously. We've gone from a sprawling, squat sea turtle based on, well, a misunderstanding of a couple of bones,
to this highly refined picture of a feathered, giant plant-eating specialist. It really does illustrate the rapid, often messy, but ultimately self-correcting nature of paleontology.
From a wild guess based on fragments to a creature we can visualize in pretty fine detail now. One of the biggest, and maybe still the strangest, oddballs in the entire dinosaur kingdom.
And here's the final fascinating twist in the tale. Despite decades of digging, decades of analysis, despite defining an entire dinosaur family based on those initial claws, one huge, really foundational piece is still missing.
Still missing after all this. What?
For the original species, Therizinosaurus solaniformis itself, we have still never found its actual skull.
You're kidding me. We have skulls of its relatives, right? Like Erlikosaurus.
Yes, we have skulls of close relatives like Erlikosaurus and Segnosaurus, which give us really good clues about what it probably looked like. But the head of this specific 10-meter-long giant, the type species, it remains an enigma, still out there, waiting to be found.
Wow. Considering how much his posture and body plan changed over 70 years of discovery, what shape do you imagine that missing skull might finally take? And, how much more are we going to learn about this gentle giant's diet and life when its true face is finally uncovered?
That's the question that keeps paleontologists digging. It could confirm everything we suspect, or it could throw another curveball. You never know.